At the end of the 15th century, Europe stood on the edge of a new era. The drive for exploration was fueled by the desire to find new trade routes, primarily to Asia, to access valuable goods such as spices and silks. Portugal had led the charge in exploration, navigating around Africa's southern tip. However, Columbus, a Genoese mariner, had a bold, radical plan to sail westward to reach the east. Born in Genoa in 1451, Columbus grew up in a maritime environment. From a young age, he was fascinated by maps, navigation, and the possibilities the sea offered. His experiences as a sailor, including voyages to the Mediterranean and possibly as far as Iceland, shaped his ambition to find a direct route to Asia by heading west rather than east around Africa. But Columbus's ideas were considered risky, if not impossible, by many scholars and navigators of his time. Columbus developed his idea of reaching Asia by sailing west after studying ancient texts and maps. He believed the earth was smaller than most contemporaries thought and that Asia could be reached quickly by crossing the Atlantic. However, his calculations were significantly off. Despite this, he remained convinced of his plan's feasibility. Columbus initially sought financial backing from the King of Portugal. However, his proposal was rejected as the Portuguese were focused on their own route to India around Africa. Undeterred, Columbus took his plans to other European monarchs, including England and France, but with no success. His determination, though, did not waver, and he soon set his sights on Spain. In Spain, Columbus approached Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand in 1486, seeking royal patronage for his westward voyage. Though initially hesitant, Spain's rulers, who had just completed the Reconquista by driving the Moors out of Granada, eventually saw potential in Columbus' plans. After several years of negotiations and persistence, in 1492, they agreed to sponsor his voyage. Columbus was granted titles, including Admiral of the Ocean Sea, and promised governance over lands he might discover. Additionally, he was promised a percentage of any wealth brought back from his expedition. With this, he set out to prepare for his journey. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Palos, Spain with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. His crew consisted of about 90 men, many of whom were fearful of the unknown. They had no idea what lay beyond the horizon, and this journey represented a leap into the dark. The voyage across the Atlantic was fraught with difficulties. The crew faced endless days of uncertainty, and at one point they threatened mutiny. Columbus, however, remained steadfast, motivating his men with promises of wealth and land. After more than 2 months at sea, they began to lose hope. Finally, on the morning of October 12, 1492, land was spotted. They had reached an island in the Bahamas, which Columbus named San Salvador. Though Columbus believed he had arrived in the East Indies, he was in fact in a region that would later be known as the America. Columbus and his men were greeted by the native Taino people. These initial interactions were peaceful, with Columbus viewing them as potential converts to Christianity. However, his writings also reflected a view of superiority over the indigenous people, seeing them as subjects to be ruled and exploited. Columbus continued his journey, exploring what is now Cuba and Hispaniola. He was fascinated by the potential riches of the new lands, though he found no evidence of the vast wealth he had hoped for, such as the spices and gold of Asia. He established a settlement called La Navidad on Hispaniola before returning to Spain. In early 1493, Columbus returned to Spain, bringing with him a few captured natives, gold trinkets, and tales of the lands he had encountered. His return was celebrated, and he was heralded as a hero. However, not everyone believed Columbus had found Asia. Some suspected he had encountered entirely new lands. Later in 1493, Columbus embarked on his second voyage, this time with a larger fleet of 17 ships and over 1,000 men, aiming to establish permanent colonies in the New World. However, Columbus was not prepared for the challenges of colonization. The settlement at La Navidad was destroyed, and tensions between the Spanish settlers and the indigenous populations escalated. In 1498, Columbus's third voyage saw him explore the coast of South America, where he encountered the Orinoco River in present-day Venezuela. He realized he had found a new continent, but still believed he was on the outskirts of Asia. His governance of the New World, however, was becoming increasingly problematic, with settlers growing frustrated under his rule. Columbus's management and the harsh conditions in the colonies led to rebellion among the Spanish settlers. Reports of his brutal methods reached Spain, and in 1500, a royal commissioner was sent to arrest Columbus. He was brought back to Spain in chains, a shocking fall from grace for the man once hailed as a hero. In 1502, Columbus embarked on his fourth and final voyage, still searching for a westward passage to Asia. He explored Central America, including modern-day Panama, but never found the elusive route. His final expedition was marked by shipwrecks and near disaster, and Columbus returned to Spain in poor health and disillusionment. Columbus died in 1506, still believing he had found a new route to Asia. His death was relatively quiet, and he never fully realized the extent of his discovery. However, within a few years of his death, it became clear that Columbus had opened the door to a new world, not Asia. Columbus's voyages marked the beginning of an era of exploration and colonization that would reshape the world. The exchange of goods, plants, animals, and diseases between the Old World and the new, known as the Columbian Exchange, had profound consequences for both Europe and the Americas. It was a turning point in world history, but also one marked by tragedy for the indigenous populations of the Americas. In modern times, Columbus's legacy is the subject of much debate. While he is celebrated for opening up the Americas to European exploration, he is also criticized for his role in the enslavement and exploitation of indigenous peoples. His actions set in motion centuries of colonization, which had devastating effects on native cultures. Christopher Columbus's voyages remain a defining moment in history. While his discoveries changed the world forever, they also serve as a reminder of the complexities and consequences of exploration. Today, his legacy is one of both achievement and controversy, as historians continue to assess the full impact of his journeys across the Atlantic.